G'day, you beautiful bastards, and welcome to 2c3pod's weekly YouTube review segment. My name is Mitchell, along with
Dylan.
And what do we call that YouTube review segment there, Dylan?
This review segment we call Two's Company, Three's a Podcast, DTCR does the cinema.
That's right, and along with this segment comes some catchy theme music, so whack that button and let's get into it.
Coming at you fresh, coming from afar, it's 2c3pod, DTCR.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for 2c3pod DTCR does the cinema.
That's
now,
right.
We have a weekly film, TV, and gaming podcast, and in that podcast, we have a segment called Yas or Pass, Excited or Blinded.
That's right.
And we pick which film we're going to see and review for this here very segment.
That's right. Last week, we actually skipped, so it's been a little while, so thank you for coming back to this. So it's a little rusty, but bear with us.
Yeah.
We got to see a week and a half ago the film ANTEBELLUM.
That's right.
From the producers of Get Out and Us, which I'm still yet to see, but distributed by LIONSGATE. It's essentially telling the story of a woman trapped in time and her twisty, timey-wimey escape out of that particular time period. And before we get into the thick of this review,
Yes?
this film was... It blew me away. It seriously did.
It really did, and honestly, it exceeded expectations because I will just say the way they pieced together the trailer, which we also reviewed for another segment we have called Trailer Park, the way they pieced the trailer together, it looked like it was going to be the story of a modern-day woman being taken back into time.
Yep.
And the way it all ended up, it was very... It left me asking questions, but in a really good way, where I was satisfied with the result. And the way that it was all pieced together, it's not what you think. And it's really, really well done.
As you said, like the trailer definitely sets up a particular expectation that a person has been taken back in time to a 19th century sort of slave era of American history.
That's right.
You know, this woman, I can't remember the name of her now. It's been a while since we've seen this film.
That's right. It's been a couple of weeks, but it was Veronica.
Veronica, that's right. She's essentially an important figure in the black community. She's been taken to this area where it's essentially they're cotton farmers.
Yes.
And they're surrounded by, as anybody who knows that particular period in history, horrible, horrible white people.
Oh, God.
As they just had them as slaves, they fed them junk, they beat them, they assaulted them, they just did everything.
They essentially could just flip on a dime and kill them.
That's right.
Doesn't
or
matter.
torture them, or
doesn't
worse.
matter.
And the film really did a good job at sort of portraying what that must have been like in that time period. But about maybe a third of the way through the film, we're not going to spoil this, by the way. This is a no-spoiler review.
Do our damnedest. There might be a few slip of the tongues, but nothing that's going to give away big plot points.
That's right. The trailer gives you the expectation that there's maybe some time travel involved. And about a third of the way...
sci-fi element.
That's right. And then the film's immaculate writing and pacing definitely pays off the fact that there is an amazing twist.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not the case at all.
No.
And I don't want to say any more about that because that's then going into spoiler territory. But I will say it made me feel a little bit sick in the way that being a white Australian, we're not up to speed or familiar with American history.
No, that's right. We know bits and bobs, but we're not. We don't learn about it in our schools.
We
learn about our terrible white history.
That's correct. Yeah. But when it comes to actual plantations and slavery, watching a particular part of this movie where it's showing all that happening, you kind of, for me, I'm not sure if this has happened to you or anybody else watching, but the way that I reacted to this was, okay, this definitely happened in a period of time, and that really sucks.
Yeah.
And then the film changes.
Oh, yeah.
And it made me sick to think, wow, I was kind of accepting of how that was.
Yeah.
Knowing that it happened and there's nothing you can do about it. But the fact that, like, if this was still going on, that would be absolutely dreadful. But it made me turn my opinion to think, holy shit, no, this really was absolutely dreadful back then as well.
Exactly.
And this film got me thinking about that. As well as it is
as
pretty
well
much
as just thinking about it as a film and the way the film was.
That's right.
It definitely, and trying our best not to spoil anything here,
it's hard.
Exactly, that's right. But like you said, like showing what time, what that time period was like back in the day really did make you sick to your stomach. Yeah. But then also thinking about the fact that there are elements of that type of time period that are still very fucking prevalent today.
Yes.
And that's the real taking point from this. And that's the part that really I left going, wow, we do live in a fucked up world.
Yes.
And some people are so fucking hard done by. And the fact that this kind of thing could potentially still exist.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling, and it really does make you think, but it makes you think in a way where you've seen an amazing film.
Yes, absolutely.
And you've seen it with the correct ending. and the correct twists along the way. And the performances are fucking immaculate.
Yes.
And everything about this historically wise and present day wise is so fucking well done.
Yep.
I genuinely think this is probably my favorite film of the year so far.
I'm rating it up there as
given that we've also had a slender year as well. This isn't a Joker or a Knives Out or an Oscar worthy caliber film, but from the production companies, Lionsgate, and from the producers, and the how well written and directed it is by Gerard Bush and Christopher Renz. It's fantastic and probably my favorite film of the year so far. And there isn't much left on the table. So honestly, this could be our top pick for the year.
That's right. You actually said that perfectly, because I had the exact same thought. I do know, and as we discussed before recording this review, that the global reviews of this film are quite strange.
They're
because
in the middle.
I think it's because we went to see it with a few people who didn't like it. And I tried to explain to them what was happening, and once they kind of understood what was happening, they still went, well, I still didn't really like the film as a whole. I was expecting one thing, and I think when it comes to films that subvert expectations, if you've got one particular idea about something, it might disappoint you if it didn't go down that route, and that happens to me a lot, but in this film, I was blown away with the way it went, so I was very happy with that.
That's the thing. At the top of this review, I mentioned how the trailer made me think that one thing was going to happen. That didn't happen at all.
Nope.
And yet it happened, and it was
still
better.
Made you think about it.
No, that's right, exactly. But I had those expectations heading in, and it was completely different to what I thought it was going to be, but it exceeded those expectations and gave me a better resolution than what I thought was going to happen. So I've got no complaints about the way that it led us down those paths and misled us a little bit, you know, like kind of teased and stuff like that. But the way that it... this film as a whole, you need to see this because it is so hard to review without spoiling, this happened, you know, like, because I want to talk about this, but I can't talk about that because I'll ruin the movie.
That's right. And the movie is certainly worth seeing at the moment. 100%. I know that cinemas are a bit dry with your options, so if Antebellum is still out 100%. And you want a good, I wouldn't say violent horror, but it's more of a psychological thriller.
It's a confrontational violence.
Yes, there are some elements of that, but fundamentally
there's
it's
uncomfortable violence, but
right.
it's necessary violence. That's the key point there.
Yeah, it makes you think. It makes you think of what it would have been like, and the way that the film is edited and paced. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, and I do rate it as probably one of the best films of the year. If we were to go back and look at the track record this year, we've had some hits and misses.
100%.
But it's been it's been fairly rare that I've walked out of the cinema this year going, "Whoa, that was a good experience."
Exactly, that's right. And we haven't had the chance to.
Don't know what that was, but
no, but 100%. That's a really good rating for it because you and I haven't.
Out of 10.
You and I haven't had the chance to go and see too many films this year together. And it was nice to be able to go and see this film together. And normally we bite our tongues and we wait for this very review segment to actually get the ball rolling. But we walked out and we were like, and just like and we just had to. So very much rated. Out of 10, I'm going to give this one a solid 8.5. I very much enjoyed this, and I highly recommend if you're looking for a nice psychological thriller, not over the top violence, tells a very hard hitting and prevalent story in today's society as well. Antebellum is the film for you. Simple as that. What about you?
I definitely give it a out of 10 as well. It's definitely phenomenal. Go see this. And one thing I do want to point out before we wrap up this review,
please do,
is that there's been more and more popular, very well made horror thriller films surrounding African American characters.
Yes, of course.
And so far, they've all been magnificent.
100%.
And this one really dives deep into the history of the black community in America. And I thought, how far is this going to push it? And it pushes it hard, and I loved it.
No, that's right. It pushed it in all the right ways where it really did... It really
made you feel guilty, didn't it?
Exactly. No, but not in a way where you're going to come out going, "Oh my god," you know, like you're going to come out going, "Damn, like that's a story.
I'm
that
glad
is history."
This was told.
You know?
That's right.
Exactly. That's right. So. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think that'll just about wrap up our review for Antebellum. Make sure to check out the podcast every single Thursday morning at 2 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. All links are down below. We're available on all freaking platforms. Just search 2c3pod. But we have a cliche slogan, of course. Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube. Big Summer Blowout.
If you search 2c3pod as well, you can certainly find our social media accounts. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, but mainly Facebook. Links are all down below anyway. Right. You can catch out live stream of our podcast recording pre- and post-show banter as well, which is usually a lot of fun. So you can find that over on our Facebook page as well.
Absolutely.
But for now, that's been our review of Antebellum. We'll see you next week. And listen to the podcast. My name is Dylan, and as always with my co-host,
Mitchell. And do not forget, we are Two's Company, and you are the podcast.
Thanks for tuning into that video by Two's Company Freezer Podcast. Don't be sad though, there's plenty more where that came from. Another cheeky video right there. Maybe even hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Or if you don't like our faces, check us out on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube.